Riddle versus Astralis. But let's be honest, Riddle is going through a dry moment right now. They're having some sort of issues to get some Ws, and Astralis are not playing around. So let's look into Rocky right now, into Riddle. What can they improve from what they had into what they have now? Obvious.
I mean, they can put Rocky in. I don't care what position. No. To be serious, I think playing around their jungler Stefan is the play. It's been what in the middle of the split. That's what won them games. To me, at least, it felt like, and I would like to see that again. Stare away from having your side laners be the carries, and just go into Stefan. Give him a lot of agency. Give him picks that can carry. Give him fiddlesticks.
One question for you, Jamada, is if you look into this is like a roller coaster, but from my experience with roller coasters, I believe where we are right now, it goes downhill to get momentum again.
True. I mean, that's actually a really good point, Archer, because I think one thing that teams, when it comes to progression, no, you're giggling, but I'm serious. When it comes to progression, it's not always about the upwards trend. Progression can look like, you know, that roller coaster behind us, where it's just up, down, up, down, up, down. And I think even if they're troughing now and then getting weaker, I can't remember what it was that we used to do a couple of years ago under them. And I think it was the storming and norming phase, where norming was effectively like coming to some kind of normality of how you guys are playing. You can kind of look at the progress check and see that's them just winning. And then you have the storming phase where ideologies would clash. You know, the kind of play styles and wants and needs could potentially evolve, and then you start to see a little bit of results start to falter. That could be where Riddle are right now, because like we've seen them basically be the best team in the league for a little while. I think for them it's just about returning to that norming stage, that normality stage, and then they'll be okay. I think playing through Stefan is probably the safest call. I think he is still, to me, individually the best jungler in the league. I think it's just more about actually giving him the agency and the tools to be the best jungler in the league again. So it feels like it's been a little while since we've seen Stefan on a pathing jungler and actually played around with the laners.
And that is a winning condition for Riddle, but what about Astralis? You were saying something earlier today.
Team Senkax.
Senkax?
Team Senkax.
What about the top lane? Is that a weakness?
That's a weakness.
Okay.
I think
how do they fix that?
I mean, that's hard. I feel like Cousin is someone who says, I want this pick, and then he plays it, and he might not play the other picks. That's at least what stands out to me, is that he might be the guy who says, no, I don't want a tank here, I want a Fiora, I want a Camille, and play those champions, even though his team wants to play bot side. So I'm hoping, like Gnar is their saving grace, kind of. It fits into his wheelhouse, but it's also like we can leave him alone, let him chill up there. So I'm very much hoping for a Gnar to go through for him, and then just play into Senkax. He's called Senkax now, no more Cress. Senkax, he can carry.
And this is a team or a clash where if you get to see Jax Plank popping off, Carlson might be in trouble, and the rest of the team as well. As we're about to jump into Champion Select, do you want to start it? Click the button.
To do it. You just
want to do it?
hit the button.
Just
oh yeah, it's right there. It's right there.
There you go. Now this guy knows how to do it. Astralis versus Riddle, 10-6. Riddle 11-5. If they still want to fight for second seed, they have to win today. Astralis could be on third seed as well. This is actually a fight for the third seed. And how important is that one? Because the team on third seed will be able to pick the team they want to face against when they jump into playoffs. So this is a really important game, as we see Yuumi being removed, as it should, from the entire game.
That makes me very happy, Archer. And I like your death stare as well into the camera. That was great.
We disagree on a lot, but this
is one thing that we can always get behind as a brotherhood kind of thing.
No.
Yeah, I agree. So what will we see now also removed away? I think Seraphine, probably a pretty... This is just standard, is what we expect to see. Poppy is the next question for me again, right? I think we didn't see it at all
Yeah, we haven't seen it the last two games in bans or picks. It's great.
Yeah, so definitely pretty interesting to take on the meta right now, because globally, everywhere, this champion is borderline pick ban. So it's not like this is a fad or a phase. Like Poppy is just kind of a very good champion in this meta. She just kind of manhandles a lot of the meta champions in lane, in jungle. There's not too many things that can directly answer her. Astralis on the blue side gonna remove it themselves, so that says to me they're not willing to pick it up at the very least, and now Riddle have the opportunity, I think, probably just to remove away the Seraphine. Otherwise Astralis could end up just first picking it. It's still a very powerful champion, even though we're on the patch where it's been tuned down a little bit.
If they ban away the Poppy, this could be a Lee Sin. It's Texter of all people as well. He really likes the Lee Sin. Might not be the first pick, like the B1 instantly, but could be a lookout for it, and there you go. Chris Bird with the Zeddy.
mean, it was very good for them last time. Although it was Senkax, Team Senkax popping off right there. But he was very good on the Zeri on the side with Kiba on the Nautilus as well. So that comp could be, we could be seeing that again. But as I said, the Gnar, that's not what they go for. So now, what do they go for into the Gnar?
Yeah, see, that's the thing, right? I think this works as
lot of
kind of a takeaway. Yeah, like it works as such a great takeaway, but also just like a pick that we know Jaxpank is going to do just fine on. Because now it's like, okay, if Carson's not on the Gnar, what champion is he picking? Is he on a carry? Like, if he's on a carry, how well is he really going to be able to perform compared to whether or not his team needs something like an Ornn or a Sejuani or something like that? Riddle, alongside that Nado, they do pick up that Wukong, so a lot of strong team fighting presence and prowess already there. Astralis hovering and toying with the idea of this Trundle. Honestly, I think with the Poppy gone, it's probably the next best jungler on patch right now, with the Wukong already locked in, and I expect Astralis will take Carson's pick here as opposed to leaving it to the next rotation and hovering over the Gwen. Yeah, it's a pretty okay matchup, as we already know, so I expect that to be the pick here for Carson, and then we're looking towards how they want to round out their draft.
Yeah, I like both the rotations from Astralis here are pretty good. The Trundle pairs into the Wukong really well in terms of skirmishes. Pop that R on him when he goes in, very easy to destroy. And then the Gwen into the Gnar is actually a very good matchup once you get through the laning phase right there. You can actually start running him down the side lane, as we've seen countless times before, actually.
So Riddle doesn't show up too much. You get the jungler, you get the top lane, and the support. No reply yet versus the Zeri. So if you see the Zeri, do you take away the Ashe? Do you just straight up ban it and make the enemy team focus on the bot side, or do you leave it open? Because this could be a plan from Astralis themselves, like ban away the Ashe, remove those bans away from you guys. We don't want to play the Ashe.
Yeah, I'm expecting Ashe Aphelios here from Astralis' 2 bans. I think those probably make the most sense when you have the Rakan there. You shouldn't really be worrying too much about a Kalista pick in most cases, so I'm expecting Ashe just as the direct counter that we've seen answered into. You could also maybe ban away the Twitch, because I think, you know, setup from Rakan and Wukong pretty prevalent, but they're actually more interested in Vladdy's champion pool. So despite what I would say is maybe the stronger idea to go for, they're moving away the Azir. They could also look to remove away another wave clear mage, but maybe they just want disengage off the table from, at the very least, the mid lane role, and they still have the opportunity, of course, to ban away one of these AD's carries. Riddle, though, taking away the much needed engage of a Nautilus, and then the Karma is just kind of a potential answer that Kiba could have had alongside this Karma for poke.
I think they want to bring in the Sivir for Riddle. It's a good reply. You give Rakan movement speed, Wukong as well, even the Gnar. It's like, yeah, take the Ashe. We can take the Sivir.
Could be, yeah. And the Ashe also very vulnerable into both the Gwen and the Trundle, as well as the Zeri, actually. Like, despite the laning phase, Zeri can get the jump on Ashe and actually run her down very easily. So it is very scary to pick the Ashe in here, which is why we might not be seeing it. I think the Sivir, yeah, wow, good call.
Great call.
We talked about this on the pre-show. You guys convinced me. I'm like, yeah, it's going to be the Sivir. Now, how do you reply versus this?
You definitely want some engage on Astralis here. So the support is going to be the engage. I don't see, what's he called, the Senkax resorting to any kind of facilitating pick. That's at least not what I hope to see. So I hope to see Kiba lock some kind of engage here, but I'm not sure what you would want to go for here. You could go the Leona path, would be pretty straightforward, but obviously the Sivir does fairly well into that. We do see the Lissandra. Yeah, that's... I mean, it's not a bad pick at all. I'm just hoping to see Senkax on more of a carry role, but the Lissandra definitely works here. A good pick.
Honestly, go for that Ludens, even Shadow Flame. There's a lot of shields on the other side, so you can burn through them as well. Could be a burst different sort of Lissandra.
Lissandra's good.
Yeah, no, I think the fact that we're dealing with so much dive on the side of Astralis means that going towards this Lissandra, she's going to have no shortage of champions to hit, because Wukong, Rakan, they're all going to be moving forward in towards her ranges, and I think as well when you have the Sivir on top of that, it just plays more and more into this playstyle. I'm more curious as to what Vladdy wants to play here, because he needs to play an AP champion. To me, a mage wouldn't really fit this kind of comp, unless maybe you actually want to run his namesake. Ooh, okay, this would honestly kind of make a whole bunch of sense.
It's in.
Even though 1-to-1, this matchup kind of stinks for Akali. I think once you get out of the laning phase and you're actually playing the dive with the Rakan, with the Wukong, as long as you're avoiding getting locked down by Lissandra, hell, maybe Vladdy even brings the cleanse. I think this is actually kind of okay. It makes sense. And to me, at the very least, it's all on theme. Everybody wants to do the exact same thing. It's just about key target selection, ensuring that you're locking down Chrisberg very early on in some of these team fights. I am definitely kind of worried, though, because I see 4 melee champions, a short-range AD carry, and it's playing into Gwen, it's playing into Zeri, and it's also playing into Lissandra with very limited forms of engage. So Riddle really do need to, I'm not going to say snowball, but I think if they're going to start these fights off, they need to be quick, and they also need to assassinate the key target that they're looking for in every fight. Otherwise, I think over the prolonged periods, Astralis should just kind of wipe them.
Give me your prediction, obvious.
I mean, the flanks need to come in from Riddle here, otherwise Astralis will pretty much steamroll them, I feel like. While the Akali can start winning the side lane at some point, it's going to take too long. The Gwen is going to start taking over the Gnar. I see Astralis here.
Astralis? What about you, Jamada? Because he's winning versus you, by the way.
Yeah, no, I see Astralis here. I think that Astralis have...
Safe bet.
I think they have a better functioning composition into what Riddle have. And I think Riddle have a certain execution threshold to meet, which is going to be pretty difficult to do into a composition like that.
It's a fight for this 3rd seed to make sure that you can pick the team you want to fight against in playoffs. But now, as we jump into Summoner's Rift, let's welcome the casters. Initialize in trouble.
Hello, nice to see you all. Welcome back to the caster desk as we head into our 3rd game of the day. Some stakes here to play for. After JDXL lost, of course, if Riddle win this game, they can tie up in game score with JDXL, which is good for them. Slight issue is, as I understand it, they are 0-2 in the head-to-head, which means they need to win again on Wednesday and hope XL
Tell you what, though. That's a pretty good plan to have because JDXL are on a tear when it comes to a lose streak right now. They're on a 0-4 lose streak at this point. They've lost the last 2 weeks. So if Wednesday also goes south for them and Riddle managed to pick both of these victories, they are 1 point above JDXL. Mind you, if Astralis win here, they also have the chance of actually reaching JDXL and maybe surpassing them as well on Wednesday. So let's keep our eyes on that one.
Yep, it's a multi-step plan. It's not all in their team's favor. We'll head on to the Rift to see which of these two come out on top. Of course, for Astralis, they win this one as well. They tie up with games with Riddle, which is potentially powerful because 3rd place is not a bad place to be either because you get to choose your opponent from those lower bracket teams, which, when honestly the teams like X7 and Bifrost are haunting around that bot end, like, you want to pick wisely here.
You know what I'm seeing, Initialize? I'm seeing a 3-way tie on the top of the board.
That, yeah. We've seen that already. That was the first. It's starting to head that way again.
I don't know if XL want this again.
They got haunted by it in spring, and I suspect it'll be a sequel movie to that particular horror story if things continue as it is. But Astralis and Riddle, definitely a position here to potentially punish and take advantage of weaknesses in other top teams. And while Riddle have fallen away from the boil a little bit, have kind of been demoted from 2nd best team in the league, this is a chance to prove that they can still be up there.
And really quickly, something that jumps to my eye instantly is the fact that Jaxpack is not necessarily a split pusher.
Yeah.
Yeah,
not necessarily.
Narda's pretty okay on a side lane versus any kind of champion because he's ranged, he's relatively safe, he can jump away from terror and all that. But he's playing more of a team fighter. With Na, you want to find the correct choke points, you want to be shoving people into walls, prep up a team fight for your team to follow up with, and especially when you have Vladi on more of a carry champion this time than Akali, you need to be setting up for him.
And I really want to call out something you talked about in draft as well, because the first thing you saw when you saw this Gnar come out was, whoa, Jax blind, not with a counter pick, but a blind pick, and 1st round on red side as well. Like, that's unusual for this team. While we've had some questions about their playstyle and whether it's been a bit figured out, this is a bit of a change, at least in draft strategy for the team.
Now, something that I'm really worried about, I think Jamada raised this concern on the desk as well, is the fact that Vlad is going to have a horrific time laning against a Lissandra. And the fact that he hasn't gone with Cleanse means that he's susceptible to falling to a Trundle gank after Lissandra also hits that level 6. It's going to be extremely difficult. Now, if you look over at Astralis, there's a little bit, again, of a blueprint. You put Taxer on something that can impact lanes in the early game. Trundle is notorious for that, especially if you have immobile carries such as Severe down the bottom of the map. You raise the pillar, you pull a flash, rinse and repeat, you get a kill. Now, usually, it's both Chrisberg and Senkax on the 2 carries, and Taxer wants to play around mid. We know the notorious Diamond Prox is going to gank your lane level 2 and level 3. Well, Taxer is doing the same level 3 and level 4 right now he has the setup with the Lissandra as well.
You know, like NFL teams or the American football teams have like the playbooks of plays they do.
Yeah.
All of Astralis are basically how do we dump on mid? Like, put as much damage in there. And like, you're playing this matchup which is a bit rough for the Akali in lane anyway, and Astralis have made a huge kind of game, honestly, strategy, playbook out of impacting mid with as many people as possible. Vladdy needs to play this well.
I feel like a lot of the times when we're talking about teams and how figured out they are, like Riddle with a split push and whatnot, I feel like if you're really freaking good at your game, it doesn't matter if you bring the same game over and over again, no team can beat you. Look at K-Corp, back-to-back European Masters champions. What is their blueprint? Seiken on something that can roam the map. Seiken has been the key particle of what gives them success in these finals.
Yeah,
and it is due to his roaming. So
yeah.
If you play your A game, it doesn't matter if teams know what you're going to play like. Nobody can beat you in your own style.
Can we get Cabo shot to Snowball? Can we have 1-1-3 invade aggressively and healthily? Kinsey can roam.
Yeah,
all good.
This is the blueprint with Astralis. Right. Can we have Taxa on an early game proactive jungler? Set. Can we have Senkax on something that can carry and provide CC? Set. Can we have Carlson on a very safe weak side scaling top laner? Check. Can we have Crispert on a hyper carry in the bot lane? Check. Everything on the blueprint has been checked. The only thing that we're waiting to see right here is that execution. But of course, having so much scaling on the side of Astralis, you don't necessarily have to pull any triggers early on.
No, not yet. Stefan, now towards the top side, maybe looking to pull the trigger himself. Is not spotted yet, and Carlson...
Meganar's about to go up.
Yeah, gonna step forward, has now popped the snip, but yeah, Meganar has popped, and Stefan just hovering around here. Not yet to go in. I think Carlson is wisely playing this one relatively safely, knowing he's potentially in danger of a gank.
Yeah, and this wave is slowly gonna push towards Jax Plank as well, because there's more mage minions, ranged minions. Oh, nice. Okay, I see you.
Yes, I think caster minions is the official.
Ranged, mage, caster.
I believe it's caster or ranged. I believe caster is probably the official term. Ranged is the one people often use. You know,
I'll call them mage.
It's the same
because they have a staff and a robe and a nice hat. So technically they're mages.
I mean, caster is another name for mage, in fact.
Sure.
So there you go. So it's all in the same vein. And Kevo gets dived on across the wall as we continue to discuss what the Okay, what are you looking at now?
They have a little papyrus. What is that?
It's like a staff.
Yeah, no. I think they're holding in the hand right now.
Yeah, it's a staff. The melee ones have got like a hammer.
No. They're holding some sort of like paper, which has a lot of spells.
It's like a scroll.
Of course. So they are mages.
You know, I didn't expect to have this in-depth discussion about what to name the minions that fire.
I should have asked for a zoom in.
I'm gonna stick with caster and leave it at that.
Fine.
And maybe look up the wiki later.
You know, the amount of times people have called wraiths, chickens, ghosts,
raptors, razorbeaks is their official term.
Yeah. So I think we can accept.
That's true. It's the same one. It's like Scuttlecrab or Rift Scuttler.
Or blast cone, or
blast cone, explosive plant. Ow, my leg! Because really, let's be real, that's not going to make you jump. That's going to like take your legs off.
Yep.
Like it's a mine, not like a trampoline.
Astralis though and Riddle might find the first fist fight right here because they both want that dragon.
Discussions about names after wait. Stefan goes in, gets exhausted, and is taking a lot of damage. Chrisberg untouched, but Akali gets first blood. Senkuk's trying to run away, but will still die to Vladdy's Akali. Gets him out of lane, and this is what he'll do for you. Finally shut down, but it is the Lulu that picks it up. Chrisberg has to flash out, but dies to Kevo's boomerang blade. And Riddle come out highly on top.
Yeah, 2 kills for 1 right here for Riddle, taking the dragon as well. And I feel like a big question mark on Senkax right here. He has the level 6, sees Vladdy go in on his jungler, and I think he's a little bit late. Pressing the R button, Senkax has his eyes on Stefan, trying to assassinate him, but Vladdy's Akali is literally having a party, not getting CC'd and jumping from target to target. And we're talking about how difficult it would be for Vladdy's Akali to play the lane. Now with the 2 kills, getting closer to that rocket belt, it could be a big problem for Lissandra to try and contain Vladdy in lane.
Absolutely. And we said, look, rough time in lane, but get it out of the lane, and you've got some ways to play around. You can see how the team fights can work here, and Sankuk's a little bit slow on the Glacial Tomb, and that's what you can do, and they do a really good job with it.
Vlad is very ballsy with his build. I see no mercs, I see no cleanse, and you've got double AP solo lanes for the side of Astralis. You've got a bunch of CC coming out from Senkax, and even if you manage to avoid that, you have a polymorph coming in from Kiba.
This 16-year-old rookie mid laner coming in from Greece.
He has no chill, man.
Yeah, he's not. And again, like, look, we've had a lot of good mid laners this split. And I think particularly compared to last split where we had some questions about performances over the whole split.
Yep.
Vladdy's come in.
Yep.
And he's been playing with the big boys. He's been playing with Senkax, who's also had a glow-up split. We've talked about Backland, the game before, in our first game, about how much of a glow-up he'd had.
Yep.
The list goes on. Temp was playing well, and Vladdy's come in and he's been competing. And he's been the kind of guy who will come in and build the damage and try to carry him. While Jaxplank's been perhaps the bigger story for
Absolutely.
Riddle. He's another one of these players who's got a bright future ahead of him, and he's definitely feeling it this
Hey,
year.
it must be because he's Greek, man.
I knew you were going to say that. Right.
No, but for real, it honestly feels good seeing both Jaxplank and Vladdy do pretty well. It's the first split on the NLC, playing for Riddle, a Riddle that did make playoffs last season, almost made a UMass as well, only fell to Dusty in their playoffs run, and now bringing in Jaxplank and Vladdy from the Greek league. Vladdy so young, Jaxplank very young as well. I think he's like 18 or 19 years old.
Yeah.
We talked about him. Every official game, every scrim has to travel 30 minutes from his house to an internet cafe. The dedication, the passion that they put into their game, it really shows. And honestly, as a fellow Greek, I feel some sort of pride in how humble and talented they are at the same time. And seeing, Mirza, Labrov and Comp doing pretty well in the LEC as well, it sparks a little bit of pride.
A little bit of joy, exactly that. And they've still got a ways to go, but they are in playoffs. The question is what seeding, and this is one of those games which will have impact on that. There is still a bit of flux, especially with some of these teams losing, and the top of that table being only a game or two apart does give some room for things to shift yet.
Always that playoffs thriller, man.
I know. Let's just check in a little bit. There's also hashtag NLC pets. Oh, that is truly adorable. Solari throwing one in.
Is that a hedgehog?
I think it's some kind, I don't know what the toy is, but it's very close to cute anyway. There's just a lot of fluff. Is what I'm enjoying.
Don't want to sound dramatic, but is the reason I wake up every day. I have the same thing with my dog. He's the reason I wake up every day.
Stefan, you've been on a control ward for the last 3 seconds. You're like, dude, it's there. You're recalling on the ward is. Okay, you know what? Jaxplank's gonna go and clean that one up. That's fine. Okay,
you know what? We're putting resources into Jaxplank. This 30 gold right there is going to prove to be very useful, okay?
I don't know how far he is away from a mythic. Probably a little ways yet, but either way.
When you just... Okay, I'm just going to say this because sometimes it does play a big part, right? Sure. When you just back and you don't want to grid for another wave and you're missing 50 gold from your mythic item. And 50 is the amount of gold that it's a long time for you to wait. You're going to really screw up the macro and the tempo for your team. But also if you stay for another entire wave, you also screw up the macro and you might end up dying to a jungle gang. So actually getting that 30 extra gold to your top laner, I think is really, really useful.
More valuable than you can sometimes think.
Yep.
And, saw Carlson there ult the wave for a good reset, and we've just been talking about timing yourself and trying not to spend too much time in base and all that kind of things. He's swinging around. Is he looking to try and catch someone on the retreat here a little bit? Jaxplank about to run out the Mega, and I'm not sure whether Carlson's messed this up just a touch, but actually with the Mega about to run out, he's got an option here, gets the Q off. Jaxplank may need to flash, but won't actually do so because the crunch will get him out of dodge.
I think Carlson played this so cleverly. The fact that he didn't actually get interrupted by the boomerang from Jaxplank, he actually stayed in lane, made sure that his wave is going to crash, and also threatening Jaxplank with his life as well was very well played. I think also the Astralis top laner has had a glow up from Spring where he needed resources to stay alive right now. He's been playing weak side for the entire split and he's been doing that flawlessly. Meanwhile, the Riddle, they have the strongest push in the bot lane. They have Akali moving into the river first as well, and Stefan and crew are going to collect the second dragon of this game. Now, Astralis, of course, we mentioned that they don't necessarily have to pull the trigger very early because they do have a very nice scaling composition for the late game. But at some point, you're going to have to come out of your hole and you're going to start fighting for these dragons.
Absolutely, because you've lost first Herald, you've lost first 2 dragons, you've lost the first fight. Waiting is fine, but you've got to be cognizant of how many resources you bleed out. And
you know what's scary? That's very reminiscent. The good old Astralis that did nothing they started bleeding out, and they just never could come back into the game. And this is the only scary thing, the fact that they can be so stagnant at times and not willing enough to make the plays. Talking about making plays, Carlson is stuck between 3 Riddle members.
Oh, the Cyclone comes through. Yes, you're going to throw down the Hallowed Mist, but all you're doing is sanctifying the ground you'll be buried in. Carlson goes down, 4th kill to Riddle. And Astralis, with low impact early games, is something we've been afraid of throughout the split. Taxa has been a little bit absent, and that's not entirely the fault with the way the game has been drafted, but thus far, not a lot of mid-pressure. Topside dies, Herald's getting summoned, and this is not a good sign right now for Astralis. And Riddle, on the other hand, very pleased with the last few plays.
And would you look at that? You mentioned Stefan. He's like, he's been sitting on that pink ward for so long, he doesn't care because Riddle still do play through Jaxplank, making sure that you shut down the Gwen early on, getting the Gnar ahead, getting him the Sandra first, maybe something like a Wits End second, which will make him very tanky, but also give him a bunch of damage for the side lanes later on versus the 2 AP solo laners of Astralis. Get your Gnar ahead, give him a bunch of turret platings. It's not necessarily about creating that side lane menace and monster in Jaxplank. It's more about making sure your Gnar is so strong that the second he dives into a teamfight to get that Mega Gnar, he can actually assassinate the backline.
Completely true. And now Riddle, with more gold in pocket, still feeling very happy, up about 1,500 gold. They've got the Akali to her first item, the rest of the team getting that point as well. Got 3 minutes or so until what will be a soul point fight for them. Cloud Soul, honestly, when you're running a Sivir, that's not a bad thing for even more move speed. But Vladdy trying to trade this one up best he can. There's another half of the perfect execution that's already been used. He's got flash, may need to use it. We'll likely be able to get under tower as the rest of Astralis turn up to punish the attempted engage. But still gets ult for ult and calls down some attention. But Astralis going to use the aggression to get some time on this tower.
Very well done right there. Vladdy tries to find the solo kill. Of course, as you mentioned, he does have his mythic item. So this Akali is very powerful right now with the extra magic pen she gets from the Rocket Bell, with the extra gap closer that she gets also from the same mythic item. But at this point, Crispec has flash, he has heal, he has a shield bow, and if that's not enough, he has a Lulu by his side with an exhaust and the entire kit. So good stuff from Vladdy trying to get the assassination right there, but Riddle end up losing the tower. What does that mean? That means that you take Crispec on that Zeri and you start moving him around the map. He is your strongest member in the team right now, so utilize that Zeri kid, try to push in waves, try to play for these river fights, like for example that Rift Trial coming up.
Absolutely, and Crispec last week put on a monster performance, honestly, on the Zeri. Was practically untouched and danced his way through some really exquisite dragon fights in particular. Certainly in position potential to do that again this game. Bit more CC, I think, to worry about, but we've seen this guy has definitely got the mechanics and the know-how to play this champion well. Going to have to do so, though, all the same.
I'm gonna say,
yes,
Jaxplank is reported for this game.
Why?
Steel caps into Gwen, Lissandra, Lulu.
I will say Steel Cap's really nice into Gwen because it blocks auto damage, not AD damage as much.
Sure.
So that's not bad in the lane.
When you're in team fights, because that's what he's building for.
Screw it up. I think it'll work on the burst fire from Zeri, I suppose. So there is that.
Yeah, you try and defend him.
And I guess Sunkirk's probably, his prime target is probably Akali, not him, I guess. But I see what you mean. There's like,
you know what? Whoever dives the backline is the primary target for a polymorph as well. You know?
You're bringing up a lot of valid points.
Obviously, we're joking right here. Yeah. There's always like the most optimal build, and we're joking about it, but again, playing against double AP, so much CC that's coming in from Astralis, and wanting to be on a side lane versus Lissandra and versus the Gwen, bringing in some of the Ama is definitely going to help you, as well as the tenacity coming in from the Magic Resistance boot.
Crispec, that was very bold, going to get knocked up and wild growth, but all he's going to be is an extra large bumper crop to be harvested by Riddle for gold.
What? That is the dragon being given away towards Riddle right now. You cannot fight. We mentioned how Crispec is the most fed member of Astralis. Dives into 4 members just from Riddle. You give them a nail, they'll take the entire body, not even a hand.
I know. I literally just praised the guy as in goes Vladdy. Does get rooted, and maybe as a turnaround play as Nash taken very low. Vladdy goes in and executes him with a 5-point strike. Carlson goes down as well. The Herald play will not be as strong as Astralis were hoping, and they lose 2 members, and likely the soul point drag Dragon as well.
Riddle.
Vladdy playing out this Akali so well.
And Riddle are so clever here because Astralis are like, you know what, we're gonna lose this Dragon anyway. Maybe we can go for a cheeky mid lane tier 1 tower that will open up the map for us. Potentially we can make picks to it. What does Riddle do? They know they have the numbers advantage on the map. They know they have the ultimates to fight this fight, and they take the full versus fight. They take the Rift Herald, the tower stays alive, they get another kill, and they get the third dragon off the game, getting themselves to soul point. So far, it's been very Riddle dominant game. And again, Astralis are falling back to old bad habits and patterns. Very,
Crispo needs to be aware here.
game.
That is a very clutch glitter lance. Bloody hell. Invisible, I believe, to hit that one.
At this point, you got to babysit him after what he did.
Look, I literally praise like, wow, this guy danced through team fights. What an amazing performance. Outplayed the Akali. This guy is set up for success.
You know what?
Does that play the last
Sometimes,
fight?
when the support is on like Karma, Lulu, Soraka, and Janna, you're like, I wish I could put a leash around my ADC's neck so he can go only where I make him go.
You know that meme of like the little gremlin child with his arms out and the harness on? There's like the person behind him like, I've got to keep...
Yeah, exactly.
Monster child, what's he doing? And there's a little bit of that going on in Kiva's like, why have you done this? Why have you forsaken
Like the
me?
Riddle meme with the person running with the dog.
Yes, that's CJ. That is the social media manager, I believe, who was the dog in that one. So poor guy is in a rough position.
In a rough position.
Oh, boo. That was... The thing is, that was actually good, and I'm disappointed. All right, let's
But
check
you
in on
didn't
some
think
memes.
of it. Haha.
NLC making finals twice in EU Masters in 2021. EU Masters only getting 2 seasons in 2022. Tragedy for spring. We still hold out hope for summer. Maybe. Things haven't been announced yet. I don't know. We
He
can
says
hold
you'll
out.
hear about this from me until the day I die. This guy sounds like me. I've been complaining about
It's just you on your alt account,
forever.
isn't it? This is actually who it is. Trouble.
It's me and my secret accounts.
Yeah. So our social media manager's got this is how I get it in there.
I've been DMing the EU Masters account every day.
Oh dear. It's like, hi. Though I remember hearing stories about like some like there was like a grocery store that had this old guy would call up every time. They had like a whole specific complaint folder for this one guy. Hi, we'll put you through to your usual line kind of vibe.
They will literally block me from now on. I will not be getting any replies.
Oh, it's like stick it. Like, you know, you get like filters for your emails, like the trouble link filter.
My emails are going straight to junk. You know, I know you're looking at them.
I wasn't going to say anything, but there we go. All right, 2.5 minutes till Dragon. Baron spawning soon, but I think at this point we have got a little bit of dead air before anything truly spectacular happens, unless someone mispositions, especially without too many towers down as well. There's not a huge amount of room to really overextend, you would think. But knowing these teams, there's definitely some world where that happens.
I'm looking at the Horizon focus coming in from Vladdy.
Interesting.
It might just be...
suppose-
Okay, so this item is like very potent on its own. It's very strong, gives you extra damage, and so on and so forth. So it might just be a little bit of a spike buying this item because you don't have necessarily money for a needless large rod. Could be the case.
The other thing is what it will do is when the Cyclone or the Meganar or the Rakan goes in, I think that will allow Horizon Focus to active because it doesn't have to be you that does the immobilizing. It just has to be an immobilized target, I think. So, I say that. I think that's the way it works. Someone may have to correct me on that one. But either way, maybe that's the theory. In the team fights, you get more damage, but I'll double check on it.
You know
either
what?
way,
I got you.
Oh, yeah, all right. Trouble's going to work this one out. And then theory crafting our way through that potential build could also be, I suppose... so, is that... No, Hextech Alternator doesn't go into Shadow Flame, I don't think. I'm forgetting my build pass at this point, which is always a slight disappointment. I apologise for that one. But Riddle, that 3,000 gold, still been a relatively slow few minutes as we're waiting for that soul to spawn. And Riddle would love to collect that. And checking in, it is actually going to be the Shadow Flame, and I was right. We don't need to think about the Horizon Focus. We were blind on that one. I was like, wait, would that not be a Shadow Flame? And I was like, wait, no, it can't be. And
Yeah, it makes sense. I completely blanked out. I'm like...
we theory crafted needlessly.
Because you know what?
Don't
It's
go
like-
build Horizon Focus on Akali, people.
You know, Rocket Bell builds from that item.
Sure.
I'm like, there's only one more item that builds from that. Well, joke's on you, Trouble.
You know, I build Shadow Flame a lot. Like, I do a lot of AP junglers, which has been a bit of a tragedy over the last few weeks, but it's been...
Akali first item Shadow Flame is a thing now. Like, even first item. Playing into teams with, like, heavy shielding gets you that super huge magic pen burst.
I mean, you're into Lulu as well this game, so it's not bad. And there's a Mortal Shield Bow. I see the angle when you're trying to assassinate that AD carry as fast as you can. So, there you go. Theory crafting done, but now correctly.
Oh, look at all the wards, though, right behind Astralis. And Jaxplank took the front door, actually, here. He's going to have to play through 5 members of Astralis. Vladdy, though, look at him on the flank. He has been spotted, but he can dive through the pit.
You already can. Nash as well, off vision, hunting for a grand entrance that will seal the deal right now. There's the quickness popped in on 2! Beautiful stuff from them. It's exactly what they needed. And Sivir will begin the resets, ricocheting her way to a triple kill. And just like that, Riddle find themselves sole in this game. It was theirs from the beginning. It'll continue to be theirs after that fight. What a flank from Nash.
Oh, Nash and Vladdy coming in from both sides, sandwiching Astralis. Then Jaxplank diving in from the huge Mega Gnar. And when you've lost both your carries in 1 second, there is no way you're coming back into this fight. I'm pretty sure the Baron's gonna go down for Riddle as well. And you know what? I'm gonna be brave enough and say it. From this point onwards, the game is pretty unlosable. Jaxplank with 2 items onto this Gnar. Stefan the same. Taxa, he does have his flash, but there's 5 members between him and the Baron, so I don't know if you want to take that fight.
Going down to 1,000 HP, secured. Now Riddle need to extricate themselves, but the polymorph had to come through onto Vladdy, who was doing incredible quantities of damage to Taxa, zoned well and truly out of that fight. Pillar will interrupt Vladdy's recall. Now actually he might go hunting for a little bit of vengeance. Hasn't recalled quite yet.
And I feel like Lissandra was picked as a neutralizer to whatever Vladdy was going to bring into the mix, whether it was a Yone, whether it was an Ari, whether it was the Akali that he picked here, right? But then also Lulu helps with that fact, because not only do you pick... Oh, hold on a minute.
He didn't reset, and he was a little bit annoyed about that pillar. Stop, gets the perfect execution. And Gwen once again finds herself in the death chamber, 4th death of the game.
As I was saying, there were a couple of picks thrown into the mix for the side of Astralis right here. As you see, Gwen was not one of them. It's the Lulu and the Lissandra, which are meant to be neutralizers for that Akali. I feel like that first dragon fight that happened, where Senkax laser-focused Stefan and not Vladdy, the fact that Vladdy got these 2 kills, he has completely snowballed the entire game with them. This is a guy that you put resources to and he brings you a victory.
Oh, Kevo just gets to use the spell shield, survives, trying to run away, trading up best they can, flashes away. Now Vladdy's coming over, Taxa gets that one alongside an Ultra Shock laser, but now he's in trouble on top of it all. Already Sunkek's full on the other side. Vladdy gets a rampage. You go 1 for 2. And Riddle get the teleport, they get the Baron push on the bottom side, and Astralis, they tried, but it was just not enough.
I mean, you need to try and make a play right here. You've got 3 lanes pushing onto you at once. Astralis need to find the most volatile one and try to make an engage. They did, they lost 2. Only one from the side of Riddle, but still 3 lanes are going strong. Bot lane tier 2 is going to fall, top lane tier 2 is going to fall. Mid lane is most likely not, because you just lost your AD carry, and that was your main push potential towards the mid lane. But as you will see, Vladdy also taking top side of the map right here, and Jaxplank is the one under attack this time, but he's going to hop, skip and jump his time away. Also, again, Astralis are trying to pick on the singled out targets on the map for Riddle, but these targets are too beefy, they're too slippery.
And because they move lanes, they lose every single remaining tier 2. Yep. All 3 went down, and this is what they call the economy Baron. You know, where you just use it to get an inordinate amount of gold and set yourself up for another Baron where you end the damn game. This one right now gets them to a, huge 10,000 gold lead. You can see it straight across the board there. Vladdy in particular, monstrously ahead of his opponents.
I'm just going to say, it's not even going to be a second Baron right here. 2 minutes and 45 seconds. The Elder Dragon is coming up. I think at this point, you're going to have to go to either for the 50-50 and try to steal, and then hope and pray that you steal the Elder and maybe turn around the fight with the buff, get a bunch of shutdowns. If you lose this fight, you've lost pretty much the game. Now, if we have a look at the levels, Vladdy level 16, 3 levels in that ultimate. Vladdy's level 16, Kiba is level 10.
Yeah, and Vladdy has a death cap. Never mind talking about whether ranged minions count as casters or magicians. Vladdy definitely does. He's got the hat to prove it. So much damage, so many levels.
Magician / assassin?
Yeah, exactly.
Perfect.
A magical assassin.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, like, I mean, you've even got the Star Guardian skin now. You do it with sparkles.
True. Very true. Although I don't think he's playing with the...
No, I think that's is that like the Crime City Nightmare one?
Probably.
I think so.
So, very importantly, level 16 on Na as well for Jax Plank. So, two very important ultimates have been fully maxed out at this point in the game. 27 minutes in, 11,000 gold in the lead for Riddle. Carlson has found Jax Plank, but I think it's more like Carlson has been found around Jax Plank because he doesn't want to be there.
Allow me to highlight the momentum meter as well. I think that's a fair statement right now. Entirely Riddle dominated. And yeah, I think it is pretty much unlosable. You said it earlier on in the game, and I have to agree. There doesn't feel like there's much of a written for Astralis here at all, outside of an absolute act of God.
I'd say you have to go if you want to believe you can still win this game, right? It's 10,000 gold deficit for Astralis. You have nothing to lose. The game is pretty much lost at this point. You have to pray to either catch someone off guard or maybe a Taxus Steel or the Elder Dragon and turn it around with the Elder Dragon buff. Yes, Cloud Soul is a thing onto Riddle, but it's not the end of the world. It's not one of the most potent souls like Hextech or Infernal that you can have. So it's much easier to deal with. Vlad on the side lane, use this to your advantage. Allow Vladdy that time to channel his teleport and use it to try and make a pick, try to steal the Elder, try to turn the game around to your advantage. Now you'll see that this time it's going to be Senkax though on the side lane versus Vladdy's Akali, level 15 versus level 17.
It's so difficult, and while the Cloud Soul isn't necessarily the more burst damage, it makes Chrisberg's life even more hellish.
Yep.
So many ultimates will be very dangerous with the speed up, but just like this, the lightning crash comes down, but Kevo over the other side, ricocheting again, the boomerang blades coming through on the other side. Vladdy does get imprisoned, but not for long. Into the backside he goes, throws down the shroud. Senkux does get a kill alongside Carlson, but Kevo's still running wild. Jax Plank gets the stun, and maybe this is the miracle they need. It's a 1-for-1 right now, and Chrisberg's still standing. Making it over to the wall, though, will make that a wishful dream. There is nothing left in this game for Astralis. Their stall falls quickly out of the heavens, and Riddle are looking to push up to tie with JDXL.
And if we're being all the coulda, woulda, shoulda of Astralis, had this fight been on even footing, on even gold, you see how Astralis were so close to turning this around, even starting the fight 3 versus 5. Riddle made sure they win the early game. Riddle made sure they snowball the mid, and Riddle are making sure to put Astralis further behind them in the standings. Again, this is a 4 versus 3 fight to start with. Kiba has already used his ultimate on the Lulu, but the fact that Senkax pins down Vladdy for this entire fight allows Chrisberg to deal with Jax Plank in the backline, and they start getting these shutdowns. Now you see all the scaling coming through with the Gwen and with the Zeri, but that was sealing the deal right there for Jax Plank. And again, coulda, woulda, shoulda. This game being on even footing, it would have been a chance for Astralis to win this team fight. Thank you very much. Mastercard, Riddle are going to take everything on the board. Soul, Elder, and Baron.
While you can see stopwatches and Zhonya's are in inventory, some way to maybe outplay some team fights again, but down the Elder, down that Baron, down just in everything itemization-wise at this point, on top of it all. It is such a difficult position. You need to stall out another 10 minutes.
I've got another one. Down in tempo.
Great one. Ooh. The metronome of this game continues to tick inexorably towards a Riddle win. A marching beat, one might say, as they march down mid lane. I can keep up these music puns. Don't start this.
Whoops. I'm messing with the wrong guy here. Yeah. Right, Riddle. On the final push where it looks like off the game, again, they have 2 lanes shoving in. Mid lane just got cleared up by Astralis, luckily for them. They do have a bunch of wave clear among them, but this is a wave and a half stacking in from Jax Plank, and Riddle can actually tower dive if they want to. They are literally 14,000 gold ahead. They can slap Astralis with dollar.
You can see Kevo's inventory, you can see Vladdy's inventory. They're both so dangerous. You kill one, everyone else on the team will be able to clean up the rest. And those ricochets bounce the way straight the way to Tax, who's at his Nexus towers even. So much danger from this Sivir with the rework at this point in the game. Early on, it might be pretty similar to how she once was. Right now, the range, the damage, so much more dangerous. Critical strikes galore, and so much uptime. Nash goes in, one Nexus Tower falls, and Astralis must stand here or forever be silenced in this game. Senkos goes golden, the Elder Dragon secures him. Vladdy flashes for a few more. A Shuriken flip, and the game is done. No flip, no doubt about it. This was theirs from the moment that first dragon went down. It feels like a clean, clinical win to tie up with JDXL.
Riddle managed to pull the unthinkable. They tie themselves for second place. Now again, JDXL have the 2-0 head-to-head over them, but on Wednesday, do they pick up the victory and JDXL continue on their losing streak? They will solidify themselves second right under Dusty. So again, XL would be seeing their playoffs runs fly away to third place. But Riddle, nonetheless, a very, very convincing early game, proactive snowballing victory.
Riddle can continue to fight for top 2. It's not easy, it's not done, but it's still possible. We'll throw to the desk as they break down that game, though.
Thank you so much. It's still possible for someone else to take first place with this sort of scenario. So the Foldy sheet is still going to be relevant until the last day. Yet again. But this was a supreme display of talent coming in from Riddle. They showcased that they can play other sort of gameplay. It's not only about the Jax playing story on the split pushing. They can play as a cohesive team. But let's break it down and let's talk about Astralis. Was this, yet again, lack of damage from the team?
I mean, this was depressing to watch from Astralis, to be honest. After that first dragon, it felt like all their spirit was just instantly gone. There was no willingness to take any risks.
This game, aren't you?
I mean, it hurts, man. Team Denmark right there, just giving up after they lose the first fight. It was rough to watch. I'm not sure what they were.
This was
They were
a
thinking during the game.
decisive moment.
Yeah, this was beautiful from Riddle. Beautiful play. Like everyone coming in from all the sides. Astralis should have realized that was happening because they saw a Kali loop around, as well as the Rakan leaving the 3. But I guess they saw the Meganar and were like, run.
Yeah, no, I think that fight in particular was kind of just the nail in the coffin.
Yeah.
I think to me, Astralis, whilst I did think, and honestly I still kind of think, they had the draft, or the kind of draft to deal with what Riddle had put on the table, it just felt like Riddle had enough agency in the early game and obviously got that very first dragon fight to kind of just run with it. And Astralis, it kind of felt like they defaulted to that, okay, we lost one fight, we're going to sit on our hands and hope that we scale. And that was kind of it. And unfortunately, Riddle aren't the kind of team that you can do that against. Obviously, yes, they've been having, like they've been having their troubles, right? Let's not take that away from them. But Riddle at their peak, are as clinical as what we just saw here. And I think that's kind of the key thing. Finally seeing, Riddle work in unison as a team. I feel like a lot of the time when they've looked the strongest, that's how they were playing. They were playing as a team. It wasn't just about Jax Plank having a pop-up performance or Vladdy or Stefan. When they look the best, it's when they're playing together, and that's what we saw today.
Yeah, eventually we got to the point where we saw Riddle, where Jax Plank was always carrying the team, and that wasn't the greatest moment from Riddle. The greatest moment is this, when they had a 5-man unit, right?
It was a beautiful game. Like, despite Astralis kind of sleeping a bit this game, it was beautiful. Like, their flanks were great. They were always on a position to flank. They were always knowing how they needed to approach these team fights from the first dragon. So I'm very happy with what I was seeing from Riddle. I didn't hold them in super high regard coming into today, but after this game, they were rising a bit.
They're now looking into that 3rd seed, but let's talk with Don't Ban Nida from Riddle, who's with us on the interview yet again. Okay, welcome to the show, and I want to know a little bit more about what was the plan for this gameplay.
We had a plan going into draft. We kind of had to change it a bit after after the ban phase. But yeah, I think we've been doing really well recently this week in scrims. We kind of changed up a lot of our draft philosophy, and yeah, it's been working out. So we're excited for playoffs.
I kind of want to ask, though, you might not want to go fully into details in terms of that draft philosophy. What was it entirely that changed? Because obviously we've seen a lot of very special picks come out of you guys, like a lot of individuality picks, I'd say, where there's a little more like flair for particularly the solo laners. But what has changed, moving away from that to now and maybe moving into playoffs?
I mean, we used to, like you also talked about before the game, we used to be like solo laners are gonna go split push, and our 3-man could just do whatever. But I think we're more teamfight oriented now. Yeah, we're more looking for those teamfight picks.
So this is something that we can expect for playoffs. This is what we can expect from Riddle. A 5-man unit looking for team fights and not only 1 man trying to get that split push.
Yeah, we're no longer 5 individuals. We're one big glob.
Okay, you have a question, right?
Yeah, you said that you changed into the team fighting style. How did that happen so fast in a week? Because these team fights were beautiful with the flanks and everything.
Yeah, I mean, we've always been able to do team fights really well. I think we have some very great individual players. I think it's easier to play team fights than it is to play split push because there's a lot less things you have to worry about. So yeah, it just favors us more.
Okay.
Congratulations, because you're now looking for that 3rd seed. That is the spicy one if you go into the loser brackets. Thank you so much for this interview. Good luck on the rest game, and let's see how you guys end up. Have a nice one.
Thanks.
There you go. So it seems like Riddle found their comfort. Now they can look into this and like, okay, we don't want to play split push. Jax Plank is good at that. Let's leave it as a side weapon. Maybe that's the secret for the team.
Yeah, I mean, I will say, especially this split, like sort of like 12-10 onwards, playing sides is kind of like playing the game on hard mode. I think like a lot of the time, and I mean, we've been in a team fighting meta for 2 years now or something silly, but I think now specifically, this is the kind of meta where you really do have to be team oriented. You really do have to bounce super well off each other, and I think a lot of that comes foundationally from like mid 2v2, like in the mid jungle area in particular. And Riddle, to me, have one of the strongest in the league, if not at the very least the strongest jungler. You can obviously argue about who's the strongest mid laner between Vladdy and a couple of others, I'm sure. But I think the fact that now it seems like they have a much better understanding of their own identity is maybe a worrying thing to hear for other teams, because Riddle have been one of the scarier teams to come up against throughout most of the weeks. Obviously, it's just been about them sort of rediscovering themselves over the last 2 or 3.
Seems like this team has found their footing. Let's talk with Astralis. They were kind of shaky today. Taxid, welcome back to the interview. We have a lot to talk about today. Obviously, this is not how you wanted to end up today, but I want to ask you something. It seems like the champion selector, the composition you brought in, didn't have a lot of damage. It seemed like if you wanted that damage, you guys needed to play for the top side, but you didn't play that way. What was the plan jumping into this game?
I mean, I think our draft is kind of good in the early game because we have a lot of push in mid and bot, and I should get a lead in my matchup as well, and then we should be able to stack dragons, but we just completely griefed the dragon fight, and then the game was really rough. I think if we play on curve and get the Drake, play into Herald after get the Herald, then I think we're in a good spot.
Okay, now we have another question about Astralis on the early game. When you guys get the early game, dude, you guys are popping. But when you don't, it seems like you guys fall over like, okay, I accept defeat. What is happening with Astralis right now as soon as you don't get the early game that you want?
I mean, I think the games where it goes wrong, it doesn't just go wrong, it goes like terribly wrong. And then it's really hard to get back.
How do you fix that?
The things we're doing are like completely, like it's so bad. So I think if you just do some small mistakes instead, and then like it's still playable in early game. But like today, for example, it's really, really hard after the dragon.
Question, when that happens, how is the mentality for the team throughout the rest of the game?
I mean, I think we're good at planning and we realized what we have to do. And I think we stalled the game pretty well. And we got into a position where we had to fight again. And then we made a little mistake that made it even harder. But I think overall, like, we played pretty good recovery and tried to do things on our windows and our turns.
So the big question now is, if it does happen on playoffs, if you do falter on the early game in playoffs, do you believe this is going to affect the best of 5? Or is it going to be separated from game to game?
I don't think it will affect the best of 5 at all. Like, we have experienced players. We know when we fuck up. Like, we realized it was just a mistake. Next game we will do better. I don't think it will affect us at all.
Okay, let's hope not, because you guys are a good team to the stars. I believe you have Danish blood here looking for you, man. Come on, man. You guys got to do it. Now, thank you so much for another interview, Taxid. I'll see you soon, and best of luck. Have a nice
Thank you.
There you go. At least they know the don't play the way they wanted to play. I'm going to put these words instead of his words. And this is not going to affect in the best of 5. If it does affect on the best of 5, how does a coach approaches this? Not that you know anything of it.
No, I wouldn't
How
know.
does a coach
I have never been a coach.
Never.
But if I had been, it's difficult. I mean, changing up draft, actually, like changing how you play, can do a lot. Like, for example, if you go from this game as your first game, and then you go into a game where you have Senkox on a Blanc, and you facilitate him through mid, that could change the mentality really fast.
Okay.
Putting them into something they're more comfortable with, basically.
It's a good tactic. What about you? You are the coach as well.
I mean, game to game in best ofs is kind of tricky. I think it's almost always contextual, and like to me, like for example, if I'm Vandeo and I'm in a best of 5 against like, oh god, I don't even know who they could end up against, like Bifrost, then we'll use Bifrost as an example. It's like, okay, maybe I want to play through mid a little bit more because, you know, for Bifrost, I feel like a lot of the time one of their bigger vocal points is Fury when he's actually on his game. Or maybe it's about playing mid 2v2 to shut down Diamond procs, and then you can transfer that down towards the bottom side, because to me, Odie is the other part of Bifrost that really makes them scary. So, you know, it's really contextual to, you know, the matchup, how the games are, how your players are playing, how the enemy players are playing as well, right? Like, if you notice, for example, a star player on the opposite side is having an off day, maybe you feel like abusing that. And I think for Astralis, they have the talent top to bottom to be able to actually play in some of those avenues. And also I think Vandeo is the kind of coach that, in my head, is adaptable enough and has the know-how to be like, okay, this guy is griefing today. We need to make sure that he stays down. Those kind of things. It's definitely a very contextual thing. I think for Astralis, though, they have the talent, you know, both on the Rift and off the Rift to actually, you know, abuse these avenues and make sure that they're giving themselves the best chance to win.
This is interesting because we have 3 coaches on the desk today, and we have a lot of different mentalities. For me, if I was the coach, I would just bite them in the ankles and hope for the best. So moving on to the next game, it's going to be X7 versus Bifrost. But before that, you need to understand how the standings are right now after this victory from Riddle versus Astralis. That is going to actually affect the standings a lot. Riddle, 12-5. JDXL, 12-5. 13-4 for Dusty. X7 and Astralis no longer can make 3rd seed. This is important, but they can actually get 4th seed, and that is important because you get the remaining team from the 5th and 6th when you jump into playoffs. Now, X7 versus Bifrost. We need to talk about a lot of